Hi, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today we have a question from our friend Adam Dominguez who says, what are the joys of training people how to fight versus the joys of being in fights? Okay, man. The joys of being in fights. Yeah. That's a mixed bag, man. That is a mixed bag. Let's start with being in fights, being a professional fighter. It's weird. It's really weird. There are some really high highs and some really low lows. Like, there's nothing fun about getting beaten up. And being a fighter involves a certain amount of getting beaten up. In fights, in the gym, especially in the gym, man. If you want to get any good at fighting, it's a slow, tedious, painful process. And a lot of it is joyless sacrifice. But, again, there are some very high highs. Fighting can be very addictive. There's a thing called combat addiction, which isn't necessarily a good thing. But you've probably heard fighters say, I love fighting. I love doing this. I want to do this for as long as I can. Yeah, man. You've probably seen fighters who were injured. Guys who had their skulls caved in. Right here, happened to me. Who swore up and down, I'm going to find a way to keep doing this. Combat addiction, very real thing. Why? Some very high highs in that fight cage, under those stage lights, man. So, the joys of that, man. For me, being a fighter, one of the greatest joys was the joy of being able to pay my bills, man. Getting that extra paycheck from fighting. That's why I did it. That's why I initially became a professional fighter. To make some money. Kind of a weird way of making money, but man, not very many other people were hiring back then. But man, combat sports, they're always looking for new fighters, man. Always looking for new fighters. Teaching, coaching fighters, that's a different thing. It's a different skill set. And it's a different set of rewards. A lot of it is living vicariously through the fighters. When they experience their high highs, you do too. When they experience their low lows, you do too. When they're in the emergency room getting stitched back together, if you're a good coach, you are there right next to them. It's not just the fun and the ring girls and the lights and the cheers. It's also the booze, and it's the blood, and it's the sweat, and it's the tears. And all, that's not a hyperbole, that's not just a saying. Blood, sweat, and tears, those are real things that go into it. And if you're doing the job that you need to do as a professional fighter, you will experience all of those. And you should, because that's part of the experience. Because you cannot have the highest of the highs without the lowest of the lows. That's just the nature of life. Can't have darkness without light, or light without darkness. So, man, if you ever feel like you are in a rough spot, if you ever feel sad or depressed, or just bad, understand, the other side of the coin is there too, for the taking. I love coaching, I love teaching, because for me it's personally rewarding. When I see people have those light bulb moments and things click for them, or when I see progress over long periods of time, or when I see people start to get it, that's rewarding to me. I like that. Why do I like that? I don't know. I should ask a psychologist friend of mine I've been meaning to do a podcast with. Paul, if you're watching this, let's get that podcast going, man. So, why do we love the things we love? Man, I don't know. All I know is that I do. So what are the joys of coaching? I've done so many other jobs, so many joyless jobs out there, working in a factory with these loud, booming machines, 130 decibels of volume. I lost a significant portion of my hearing in that job. And working as a substitute teacher and working in a mental asylum. Have you ever stepped foot in an insane asylum, an actual insane asylum? Yeah, it's different, man. It's weird. Working in a center for a juvenile detention center for troubled youth. Done that too. Food processing plant. A U-Haul station. Working on their trucks and doing cleaning and maintenance and whatever else. I've done a lot of different things, worn a lot of different hats in my life, but what makes coaching different? One thing that makes it really awesome is it's possible to put food on the table doing something that not only is fun, but it's fulfilling. So lots of things are fun and they're not fulfilling. Candy is fun, but it's not fulfilling. Just makes you fat and weak. As opposed to, how can I put this? Good, whole foods that are delicious and nutritious, the stuff you should be eating. Because that's the best of both worlds. It tastes good and it's good for you, right? That's what we want out of life, not just out of our food, but out of life. And unfortunately, not everybody is always able to put themselves in that situation. Nobody's born with the ideal job. You have to go out there and make it. So if you're looking through the want ads of... They don't make newspapers anymore, do they? I don't know. When I was younger, you looked through the want ads of the newspaper looking for a job, like, wanted. A guy who can do this. And you'd be like, hey, I'm a guy who can do that. Then you would go have an interview and they would say, sorry, we're looking for somebody more qualified. And then you'd get all sad and be like, go back to the newspaper, go to the next one, and have this interview 3,000 other times. And then feel like a loser because you couldn't get a job. Until you start watching a cable access show and they say, hey, do you like to fight? And I'd be like, not necessarily. We'll pay you to do it. Okay, let's go do that. And then your life changes in some very, very crazy ways that send you all the way around the world. And for a moment, your life is like a real-life game of Street Fighter. Not that you're throwing Hadouken fireballs at people, but rather you're flying around the world in a jet to all of these different countries, fighting different martial artists of different fighting styles and so on. Yeah, my life was like that in the early 2000s. But it's the 20s now, guys. Time to get with the times. I'm going to start saying that a lot. It's the 20s now, guys. Remember back in the 80s, people used to say that all the time? Come on, guys, it's the 80s. Get with the times. We can finally do that again because, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, so on. We didn't even know what to call the years 2000 to 2019. Everybody was in disagreement, confused, like, what do we call it? The aughts, the zeros, the teens? Who knows? We'll just call it that confusing era at the beginning of the millennium. But it's the 20s now, so time to get with the times. Hope that answers your question. Thank you for watching. Now get out there and train.